तो गुंजे में युति
ये तो human creation Facebook as creation yivani.
Fine.
But sir, आपका human creation.
That be bushments.
Again, maybe someone else ready? Maybe it's a bonus.
Hello. 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 Can you hear me? Hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, so shall I start? I am online now. आपका वो आप ये देख लीजिएगा कि ऑडियो ठीक है. I will start. ये मैंने कर दिया. नहीं, I am live. ऑडियो भी दिखा रहा है, वीडियो भी दिखा रहा है मेरे एंड पर. तो आप ये देख लीजिएगा कि वहां से मेरी आवाज, फोन से नहीं, उसमें मेरी आवाज अगर आ रही है तो देन आई विल स्टार्ट. ओके, थैंक यू. Namaskar. First of all, let me express my heartfelt thanks to Vistapit Kabtak platform to give me an opportunity to inform the viewers how our family suffered at the hands of terrorism, these terrorists, and what I and my family feel about it. And I shall also explain the chain of events that subsequently led the Kashmiri Hindu community getting displaced completely. I'll also like to throw light on how we Kashmiri Hindus, who are called Kashmiri Pandits, were uprooted from our roots and became homeless in our own motherland, India. There are thousands of similar episodes and tragedies that occurred to Kashmiri Pandits, and probably this is one of the stories amongst them. And I hope that listeners can understand our plight of how we suffered for being Hindu and for being nationalists in this country. The unfortunate things that happened with all Kashmiri Pandits due to the terrorism in Kashmir has created a wound which is very difficult to heal, in fact. I lost my mother due to this terrorism, and even today, after 3 decades, our family finds it very difficult to reconcile with this. My mother's name was Prabhavati Bhatt. We affectionately used to call her Babi. We are residents of Nagam, Tahsil Chadora, District Badgam. And my father, Pandit Shamlal Bhatt, who also expired subsequently, was among the first graduates of Kashmir Valley, in fact. Every member of our family is well educated, and this has helped us, in fact, including other Kashmiri Pandits, to live a respectable life even under these adverse conditions. My father owned a very large orchard and was supporting large number of servants over there. He was very passionate about maintenance of this orchard, and my mother was taking care of most of the household activities. My mother was a very highly devoted and spiritually elevated lady. She used to go to Maharagina temple at we called it Devi Val, located at Badipura, which is adjacent village to Nagam. She would go at 4 a.m. every day without a break to this temple and would return by 7 a.m. to start her daily household activities. She used to take care of anyone who came to our home and would not allow to leave unless he or she had not been served something to eat in fact. She was a great host in fact. I have yet to see one like her in all my life. She was she would ensure that everyone is taken care of. We had number of cows which yielded lot of milk, sufficient amount of milk, and she would distribute among uh, our neighbors in in whole of the village. In fact, whoever needed it. Though she was not educated, she recited many Sanskrit shlokas and devotional songs. She had a melodious voice and would sing Kashmiri bhajans and folk songs in every village get together, marriages, satsangs, etc. My mother was a very simple lady to the core, with a very high emotional and spiritual quotient. At the same time, she was very disciplinarian also and would not tolerate any wrong thing done by any of her children. I, after completing my studies at IIT Kanpur, had taken up teaching job at IIT Lucknow. My parents used to visit me during winter months to avoid the winter of Kashmir. Usually they would come in the month of November or December and would return in March to take care of the routine affairs at my village. That year too, in fact, they were with me at Lucknow during the winter session and they went to Jammu where my younger brother is staying. After staying with him for a week, they left for Srinagar on 11th of March 1989. On reaching Srinagar on 11th March 1989 evening, my parents stayed for 2-3 nights with my Mamaji, who lives in Punjabi Mahla, Hari Singh, who in fact that time they lived in Punjabi Mahla, Hari Singh High Street, which is near, very close to Amira Kadal. In fact, during this period, she met many of the relatives living in Srinagar. On 14th of March, my parents planned to go back to our home located at Nagam, and my sister and brother-in-law came to pick them up and take them to Nagam in their own vehicle. As soon as all four of them left my Mamaji's house from in Punjabi Mala Hari Singh High Street and were coming out of the lane, a bomb that was planted there was detonated and the building came tumbling down. A large portion of it fell on my mother and she was severely injured. She suffered head injury and went into coma immediately. Fortunately, other members, my father, my sister, and my brother in law, who were few steps ahead of her, in fact, did not get seriously injured, though some splinters hit them also. My sister and my brother in law, both of them are doctors, picked her up and took her to SMHS hospital, where doctors, looking at her condition, referred her to Sher Kashmir Institute of Medical Sciences located at Soura. Without wasting any time, they immediately proceeded for Soura. And once they reached Soura Medical Institute, the surgeon avoided to operate her and kept going from one room to another room and kept hiding in fact. My sister and brother-in-law tried to locate him, but he was not traceable for the whole day. From 11 a.m. till 5:30 p.m., he did not attend to her. We tried to contact him through many doctors, including some from AIMS, because he had done his MS from AIMS. Yet all this was futile exercise. At about 5:30 p.m., when the doctors for next shift came, one of the doctors, who was our relative, recognized my sister and brought the surgeon from somewhere and forced him to operate on my mother. This was around 6 p.m. in fact. But by then, the damage had been done due to the delay in treatment, and she could not come out of her state of coma after that. On the other hand, the terrorists claimed that they were responsible for planting bombs on several locations, including Punjabi Mohalla of this Hari Singh High Street, Srinagar, where my mother was injured, and I was in Lucknow. I received the message next day morning because communications were not so fast that time. There were no mobiles, and therefore I received the call on 15th morning, 15th March morning, 1989, about her injury. And I, along with my family, immediately left and reached on 16th of evening to Srinagar. We straightway went to Sora Medical Institute and found her in ICU on life support system. And she was not responding to any treatment which was given to her. My sister was there attending her, and in fact, she was also very desperate when we saw her. Despite all attempts which we could make, we were not in a position to revive her, and the damage which was caused by the impact of the blast and subsequently the deliberate delay in operating upon her by the doctor by almost 6 to 7 hours proved very fatal actually. We came to know that the terrorists had phoned the hospital not to attend to patients who get injured in these blasts, in fact. So she was not attended probably because of that. And she left for her heavenly abode and attained moksha on 16th of April 1989. It was all over and all of us lost her forever. We took her to our native village, Nagam, for the last rites, and they, as of today, even if you look at the records of police, they say that Srimati Prabhavati was killed at Hari Singh High Street on March 14, the day this bomb blast occurred, and the note is that her killers remain untraced. When it is clear that they said that we have done it and we are responsible for it, and yet this is the report which was shown by the police in their records. She was the first victim of terrorism, and after her death, the bomb blasts and the selective killings became very frequent, and many Kashmiri Pandits and other Hindus lost their lives after that. At this stage, in fact, all this was done under the blind eyes of state and central government, who did not pay any heed towards these eventualities. Had the government acted immediately, many lives could have been saved thereafter. Their silence and non-action was responsible for encouraging these terrorists, and they involved in these terrorist activities much more, and the death of many innocent people occurred because of it. All our family members were in a state of shock actually. My father, who was one of the most balanced persons throughout his life, lost all interest in his day-to-day routine activities. He had anguish as those who were responsible for my mother's death and who had said that we have done it, were feeling very proud about it, were moving like heroes and claiming that they will free Kashmir from India and establish the Nizam-e Mustafa there. All such cases were never investigated. and culprits were allowed to operate as per their own design actually. All these terrorists moved freely and were showcasing the weapons like AK-47, AK-52, Kalashnikov, and it was an open for them. They would show it with pride that they possess these things. I left for Lucknow to join my duties in third week of July 1989, after her death in April 1989. In August, my two sisters went to Nagam to meet my father. One of my old classmates, who's a Muslim classmate, he came and told my sisters that please take him away with them, as otherwise we might lose him also. He told them that he is on the hit list of terrorists and pleaded them to take my father away from Nagam. They, both of them, forcibly brought him to Srinagar and sent him to Jammu, where my brother had shifted. One can see how that a place which was called Rishivar, established by Kashyap Rishi, had become a hell under the shade of terrorists for non-Muslims. I would like to reiterate that the plot was laid much earlier about converting the Rishivar into a part of Pakistan, who was basically supporting all these terrorists. Terrorists took lessons from their masters across the border, and they wanted to do the same thing what was done in other countries which were not initially Islamic. Look at Afghanistan, where Hinduism, Buddhism, Baha'i faith, Christianity was there, but today we find it is completely Islamic country. If you look at Iran, where Zoroastrians were in large number, and many of them fled ultimately, who live as Parsis in our country also. Hardly any Zoroastrian is now found in Iran actually. Same thing happened in Turkey, where Judaism, Christianity, and Islam coexisted. And today we have 99.8% of population of Turkey as Muslims, and they have declared it as an Islamic state now. Same thing happened to Iraq, where the Christianity and Judaism did exist, and today 97 plus percentage of population in Iraq is completely Islam now. So the terrorists would openly say that they want to establish Nizam-e-Mustafa in the state and shall be governed by Sharia rules, which means that any other person who doesn't belong to Islam will have to pay taxes to them and will live under their patronage only. It was only when I would say, only when political parties started messing up the issues and the central government remained a mute spectator. All this happened because of this. All this was done by the Kashmiri politicians to brainwash people to get extra benefit from the central government, and the central government did it actually. So they bowed to all their wishes actually. In 1977 to 82, when Sheikh Abdullah, who became chief minister second time, he continued with his old unfinished agenda of 1931, when a lot of Hindus were brutally murdered in Kashmir. We still have Bhatmazar, where all those people were buried there. He and mullahs started delivering communal speeches in mosques, similar to what they had done in 1931 actually. Hindus were denied jobs at that time, and all other opportunities were almost gone for them. And they would say, "Aapke liye to Hindustan hai." So Hindus faced institutional discrimination by predominantly Muslim state bureaucrats in Jammu and Kashmir. He changed the name of more than 2,500 villages. You can imagine that 2,500 villages were named and the new Islamic names were assigned to them. JKLF, Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front, during this period intensified its activities, and it was during this period when Farooq Abdullah visited Pak-occupied Kashmir in 1984 and shared stage with JKLF leaders and other wanted terrorists there. The agenda of the meeting was to have Kashmir as a separate Muslim state with the support of Pakistan, and he attended it, in fact. This is very lucid that all the politicians in Kashmir were actually working on the agenda of Islamization of Kashmir and established this Nizam-e-Mustafa in a secular country, as has been seen from the slogans, banners, and the actions thereafter, in fact. And the annihilation of Hindus and other religious communities was necessary for the same, in fact, to make it a Muslim, completely Muslim state. This scheme led to the murder of Kashmiri Pandits. And other non-Muslims were considered to be, they were called kafirs or mukhbirs. Mukhbirs mean who inform others, government. So they killed especially scholars, intellectuals, many innovators, many activists, raped ladies, and murdered them brutally. Some of them were killed, and then finally they were cut into small pieces. In some cases, the inner body parts were removed when the person was still alive and were placed outside his body, in fact. This is how brutal they are. It was creating an environment of terror for all Hindus as they were supporters of India. In 1986, the then Chief Minister Ghulam Muhammad Shah, son-in-law of Sheikh Abdullah, he raised slogans that Islam is in danger. He delivered a lecture in Srinagar, and this led to targeting of Hindus and many Hindu properties, and it was burned, temples were destroyed, and Hindus were afraid, they could not understand what is happening actually in all these areas. Around the same period, in February 1986, in district Anantnag, several villages were burned completely. During the riot, although no Hindu was killed at that time, many houses and other properties belonging to Hindus were looted, burned, and damaged. The worst hit area were mainly in South Kashmir and Sopore. Muslim mobs looted, damaged, and destroyed the properties and temples of Hindus, and places like Vanpur, Lukbhavan in Anantnag, Salar and Fatehpur in Sopore. These are some of the villages where complete destruction took place. Investigation of Anantnag riots, in fact, revealed that members of so-called secular parties in the state, rather than the Islamists, had played a key role in organizing the violence to gain political mileage through religious sentiments. On investigation, it was found that the Mufti Said, who was president of Pradesh Congress Committee, had planned and instigated it. It resulted in his removal from his post of president of Pradesh Congress Committee. It is also known now that he and other politicians of Kashmir had arranged and supported the training of terrorists across the border, which is on record. Now look at the politics in our country. The person who was responsible for all this was rewarded by our Prime Minister, then Prime Minister, VP Singh, who made him the Home Minister of India. So he got a promotion for doing all this nonsense and wrong things. A conspiracy and provocation of massacre rewarded him with the coveted post of Home Minister of India, in fact. The person who was financier and supporter of terrorists remained at the helm of affairs in India. On return, The terrorists continued with genocide, the murders of minority community now because they had a godfather sitting there to protect him actually. The same year, in September 1989, on 14th of September, Tikalal Tuplu was assassinated openly on the road in broad daylight, and it happened in presence of hundreds of people. Everyone knew who killed him, but the killers were never caught and sent behind bars. Similarly, on 1st of November 1989, same year the year my mother expired, in November, Justice Neelkant Gunju was shot dead on a busy street of Hari Singh High Street, very close to High Court, in fact, because he had sentenced JKLF militant Makbul Bhatt, and who was executed in February 89. Another stage managed drama played by Mufti Said was that of his daughters Rubia Said on 8th of December 1989. The terrorists demanded release of 5 trained JKLF terrorists, which was accepted by the government, central government, in fact, at that stage. The release was celebrated and large processions organized, and many Pakistani terrorists who had sneaked into India were brought to Srinagar through these processions. During this period, many Kashmiri Pandit properties were damaged. Threatenings were pasted on the doors of Hindus mentioning Reliv, Saliv, Ya Galiv, which means either convert yourself to Islam or be ready to die or leave this state, and leaving behind girls and ladies. So this is the posters which were pasted on the doors of Kashmiri Hindus, Kashmiri Pandits in fact. On 4th of January 1999, next year, Aftab newspaper, which was published in Srinagar, it published a threatening for all Hindus to leave Kashmir immediately. Therefore, the lawlessness forced Hindus to move from their homes for security and safety of life. Terrorists enforced Pakistani time to be followed. The watches were adjusted accordingly in the state. AK-47 and Kalashnikovs were seen everywhere. Offices, buildings, shops were colored green, and most of the Kashmiri Hindus left Kashmir Valley and moved to other parts of India, particularly to Jammu and Delhi, thinking that probably the government will take care of it over a period of time and they will be in a position to go back after some time. Then on 19th of January 1990, the dark draconian drama was played, where power was cut off except in mosques, and announcements were made simultaneously from all mosques in the state. You can see the networking which they were doing. The announcements made was for Hindus, asking them again, you either accept Islam or be ready to die or run away from this place, leaving ladies behind. People flooded the streets in every part of Kashmir, and Kashmiri Pandits were really scared and mentally prepared for death during that night actually. There was no response from anywhere. When people telephoned police people, they said most of the times they did not pick it up, and in case somebody picked it up, he would say that yes, we are coming, wait there. So this was the response which people were getting. So the most of the Hindus moved out of Delhi during the night and subsequently, but some stayed back thinking government will maybe take some measures to protect them, but nothing of that sort happened thereafter. On 13th of February, after about 15-20 days, 1990, Laskol, who was the senior director of Doordarshan, was assassinated. On 14th of April 1990, Al Safa, the newspaper which was again published from Srinagar, republished the same warning which was earlier published in newspaper of Aftab and asking Hindus to leave immediately. On 29th of April, Pandit Sarvanand Premi, a highly renowned poet and intellectual person, was murdered by his own students in his house and his eyes were removed. 11th August 1990, Satish Tikku, a social worker, was shot dead by his own friend who was his neighbor because he was using tilak on his forehead. The 5th December 1992, Hridaynath Vachu, who was a human rights activist, was killed. Between 1989 and 1990, during that 1 year, Kashmiri Islamists carried out a genocidal campaign of abduction, targeted murders, torture, rape, mob violence, and forced mass expulsion against the minority Kashmiri Hindu community. Neither the state nor central government tried to find out honestly as to what is happening in Kashmir at that time. Then, during the night of March 21st, 22nd, in 1997, in Sangrampura village in Badagam, 7 Hindus were killed. Nobody was caught. Bandhama massacre, where 24 Hindus, 11 men, 11 women, and 2 children at the age of, one was newborn baby, another was about 3 years old child, they were killed by the terrorists. In Prankot massacre, 25 Hindus were massacred. They were beheaded. All of them were beheaded. Imagine. So this was done deliberately to show that they have now power to do anything. Amarnath Yatra in 2000, 30 pilgrimages were killed. Again, in Chatti Singhpura, in fact, the massacre, 36 were killed in one night. It is not only in Kashmir that they started doing, they also went to Jammu. In Rughunath Temple, Jammu, on March 2002, 11 people died because they shot them dead there. Again, at Raghunath Temple in Jammu, after about 6 months, 14 devotees and 45 people were injured due to the bullets of these terrorists. Nadigram massacre, 24 Hindus were killed in the district of Pulwama in a small hamlet. Doda massacre, 35 people were killed in 2006, and this also included very small children of the age of 3, 2, 4. This type of, these children were also not spared. Uri attack happened and they entered into the army camps, tents in fact, and all of the soldiers were sleeping and they bombed them. Sunjwan attack, 11 people lost their lives. Pulwama attack, where 46 of our soldiers died in 2019. So this is going on. This is happening actually. And in most of the cases, all this was done by the terrorists who knew the victims very closely, except in Pulwama attack actually. I am just mentioning it to make it very vivid that it was a part of a bigger design, that above killings were done, and there are now enough evidences that all this was done under the patronage of local politicians and had backing across the board. As I mentioned earlier, that all this was done under the guidance of these dirty politicians actually. The political flight, in fact, these politicians actually, they portrayed that it is a conflict between the central government who want to impose on a state where the Muslims are there. So this was how they were projecting it. The political fight was actually for this actually. and what they were depicting was something different. The narration suited the political Islamists and these clerks probably very well. People in politics who were on one hand claiming to be the protectors of Constitution of India were actually its worst abusers. And particularly in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, this has happened, and we can see it. And there are now documents which are proving it. Earlier, these documents were not available. The Mufti Said's daughter, in fact, recently, about 2, 3 years back, the JKLF said that we knew where she is and we had protected her from, she was under their protection. The politicians were busy in fooling the central government by saying that Kashmir is a state with Muslims who are in minority in the country and is responsibility of the central government to take care of them, while and they were annihilating other Hindus in the valley. Actually, it was a state where Hindus were in minority, and the minority was of the order of about 3%, 4%. And our safety should have been the utmost concern for the center and the state government, which was ignored at all levels. In fact, Kashmiri Pandits were targeted specifically because they were seen as Indian presence in Kashmir because of their faith. We Kashmiri Pandits are and shall remain, in fact, obliged to and are thankful to the people of Jammu who supported us in those crucial times for accommodating us, and to Sri Bal Thackeray, who opened doors for education for our wards to various institutions in the state of Maharashtra, and which was then followed by other states in the country also. Every displaced Kashmiri Pandit wishes to go back to Kashmir, to its own roots, and hope someday we will be back in our home, safe and sound. As remaining outside the valley is what has taken us away from our roots. It has affected our psychology. It has affected us psychologically, physically, financially, socially, culturally. And we have survived because we did not pick up the gun like people who picked up the gun in Kashmir. We picked up the pen actually. Ours is the only community which lives as refugees in our own motherland. And despite living in unlivable conditions, we, though are Vistapits, continue to provide the best possible education to our children. Ours is the only community in India which has 100% literacy. It makes us capable of contributing at the national level in all possible ways, and the government should understand it. People in politics should understand it, that what is our contribution. Central government must especially understand that the status of our community is like a tribe now, which is in exile. And today ours is an endangered community. And we are losing our identity and may perish soon unless the government takes care of us. I think it is high time the government recognizes our plight. Otherwise, this community of literates, intellectuals, philosophers, and who are contributing to the national economy will completely perish. We should and will continue with our Sangharsh of bringing back the prestige which we have lost due to the brutalities and loot of these terrorists. We will continue to demand justice and seek action against murderers, rapists, and looters. I am sure all Kashmiri Pandits are proud to be Kashmiris and will continue to follow our traditions and heritage of being Sarasat Brahmins. Namaskar. Jai Hind.